All right, so moving on in our notes. Some common types of credit that we deal with. Some common types are credit cards, number one, which we talked a little bit about the other day. These are basically what we call unsecured, open-ended forms of credit that are used for what we call consumer purchases. The thing about them, the common features about them are that there's flexible payment options, and there's flexible interest rates and terms, but those interest rates and terms are often, the interest rates are at least high. And they're talking about, like right now on the news just the other day, they were talking about how the federal, the federal government is probably going to increase interest rates by 25 basis points, which is basically a quarter of a point. And so that's going to affect everybody's rates. Your credit card rates are going to go up. Your mortgage rates are going to go up, so on and so forth. So that's a big impact on all of that. So it's a very important thing to keep in mind if you were thinking about, if you guys are obviously not that much in a position of borrowing or using credit cards, but it's something to keep in mind, okay? And then term loans. Term loans are secured forms of credit. Usually they are secured by the item that you're financing, and they're what we call closed-ended form of credit. Let's see if my marker works today. Oh, it did. Yay. Closed-ended form of payment, or credit, pardon me. Okay, whereas credit cards are open-ended. The thing with the term loans that we try to do is you want to match the life of the asset with the term of the loan. Oops. Oh, it's not paginated well, but it's the term of the loan. That's an L, not an R. It's the term of the loan. Okay. Things to keep in mind here, because they are unsecured. Okay, keep this in mind. Write this note down. Logan, I don't want to have to take it away from you. Please. Thank you. Okay. Because they're unsecured, there's typically going to be a higher interest rate. Okay? Because there's more risk to whomever the lender is in this situation. There's more risk here because with a term loan, if it's secured, if you don't pay your term loan, the bank or the finance company, the credit company, can go and get that item, that home, that car, that boat, and they can turn around and repossess that item. And then if they repossess that item, they can turn around and sell it, and that helps to pay off the loan. Whereas your credit card, it's typically what we call consumer purchases. So you're buying a pair of sneakers, you're buying a pair of pants, a shirt, consumer purchases. They're not going to get any money back even if they did repossess it. Okay, so it's higher risk to the credit company with an unsecured credit card than it is with a term loan. Then we also have student loans, which student loans, obviously, they help to finance the cost of an education, your college education. Typically speaking, the repayment is not required until after graduation. Okay, and there are two different types of student loans. There are basically government student loans, the government student loans, and then private student loans, which are issued by banks. Okay. With the government student loans, in order to get the government student loans, and basically they always tell you to file the FAFSA, okay? With the government student loans, there's two types of government student loans. There's subsidized and unsubsidized. if you can qualify for subsidized student loans, that's the better situation. The subsidized student loans, they're basically what happens is the federal government subsidizes the interest portion of the loan while you're still in school. Okay? They also typically are a little bit less or lower of an interest rate. What happens with the subsidized loan? So let's say I'm a freshman. My seniors, they're going to be freshmen next year. I go into college, I'm a freshman. Day one, I borrow, let's say, $5,000. Okay? So I borrow $5,000 my freshman year, September. There is interest that is accruing on that student loan, but what do you notice? You don't pay these student loans until after you graduate or you stop going to school. Okay? So graduation, I say graduation here, could be if you stop going to school, you have to start repaying them too. Okay? So if you drop out, you start repaying them then. Okay? So don't do that, okay? But so what happens is starting from September through your graduation, which is, let's say, 4 years later, there's interest that is building up on that student loan the whole time. With a subsidized student loan, the nice thing is the government subsidizes and pays that interest for you. So when you graduate, that $5,000 loan is still a $5,000 loan. You start accruing or building the interest on that loan when you graduate. Okay? With an unsubsidized loan, you start accruing the interest from day one. So starting in September, like even though you don't realize it, you don't have to start repaying it until you graduate. You're increasing the amount that you're borrowing because the interest on that loan is accumulating. Didn't we talk about compound interest and everything? So like if you took out $1,000 and you had a 10% interest rate, okay, you're going to owe $1,100. Okay, well, it's the same thing. When you borrow on a student loan, if you borrow and it was 10% interest rate, you took out $5,000 loan, no compounding here. Okay, $5,000 loan, at the end of the year, you're going to owe $5,500 because the interest is going to accumulate. You start paying it back when you graduate. So year one, it's $5,000 plus the $500. Year two, it's going to be the $5,000 plus whatever new loans you take out. So let's say year two, you take out another $5,000. So now you got the $5,000 plus the interest on that for now 3 years. You take out, when you're junior, you have the $5,000 plus interest for 2 years, and so on and so forth. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a subsidized loan is a better way to go if you qualify for it. The challenge is you have to qualify for it. The way that you qualify for it is if you don't make enough money. Okay, so most of the people sitting around this room are probably not going to qualify for the subsidized loans. I could be wrong, but most of you are going to end up with getting unsubsidized loans. So if you think your $5,000 is $5,000, it's not. It's going to be $5,000 plus all the interest that you start repaying when you graduate. Now, you can start repaying the interest sooner if you want, which Ms. McGrath does kind of recommend. So if you can make the $5,000 payment, at least try to keep paying the interest payments, okay? So you don't have as much outstanding at the end of 4 years, okay? Let me see if I had anything else I wanted to make sure I said. The other thing with the government loans that's better than the private loans is the interest rate is usually less on the government loans. So the interest rate is usually lower on the federal government loans than on the private loans. So keep that in mind too. So like guys, you should be writing that stuff down because I'm going to ask you a question about the subsidized, unsubsidized, so on and so forth. The amount that they'll usually lend is somewhat based on what your tuition is for your school. I think that's about it. Okay. Good? Obviously, try to minimize your amount of student loans. Okay. Good? All right. So, credit cards, advantages, disadvantages. So, we were talking a little bit about this before. Why would you use a credit card? You don't have to carry cash. It's useful for an emergency. Lost cards can be canceled and replaced. Your limit is $50, but if you are, if you use a debit card, it's unlimited. Don't pay bills. You can dispute, like if there's something, you can dispute it. If there's an issue with it, you can dispute it. And if you pay your bills on time, there's limited charges or limited fees. Disadvantages, obviously, as I told you, credit cards is a very high interest rate. They can also have high fees. What do I mean by that? Like, there's not just the interest rate on credit cards, and you'll see this when we work on an activity, I think next class. There's not just the interest rate on the credit cards, there's also fees for the credit cards. So their fees can be high as well. You can obviously accumulate debt very quickly and not be aware that you're accumulating that debt when you don't pay off the balance. You can lose track of how much you spend. So very easy if you got that credit card and you keep whipping it out, you know, oh, I really like those boots. Oh, I really like that sweater, blah, blah, blah. So what did Mrs. McGrath say was the first type of credit card you should get? What did I say? Did I tell you guys? I didn't tell you guys? Oh my God, I didn't tell you. So, I will tell you now. Okay, so the first type of credit card that Mrs. McGrath recommends you get, what do you think it is? Do you think it's like you go in, and how many times have you been in the store, and the store, like you get up to the cash register and you're in Macy's and they say, oh, you want to take out a Macy's charge card? If you take out a Macy's charge card today, you're going to get 10% off of all your purchases. Cool. Should you do it? Good. Excellent. Why? Well, you're stuck with that card. That's true. What's that? You don't really need it. Okay? So now that's going to give you incentive. Like next time you're in Macy's and you like see something you like or whatever, you're going to be like, oh, you know, I think I'm going to get that new thing. I've got my Macy's credit card. I can use that. Whereas if you're using cash, if you don't have the cash, are you going to buy it? No, you're not going to buy it. Or worst case scenario, you'll put it on hold and you go back the next day, but maybe you've had some time to think about it. You know, like, oh, I'll go to the bank, I'll get the money out of my bank account, and I'll go back and buy it. Well, sometimes you go home and then you're like, I really don't need that sweater. I don't really need those new sneakers, whatever. Okay, it gives you time to have a second thought about it. You know, whereas in the heat of the moment, if you have that credit card, you might just be like, oh, I like that sweater, and I got my credit card. I like those jeans that go with that sweater, and so on and so forth. So, Ms. McGrath says don't do any of that. If you want to establish credit and establish good credit, get a gas charge card, like for Sunoco or Mobile or a gas station. Why? Why do I say that?
Because you're going to need gas. You're always going to need it, and you're going to get a discount on if you're getting that card. And like it's not like you're buying something that like you don't necessarily need, like new shoes.
Okay, you absolutely need it. Who's going to go to the gas station and be like, ooh, gas. I'm going to get some more of that because I really want some more gas. You only get the gas that you need, okay? And if you make sure you have, you know, like in your mind, let's say you use $20 a week in gas, right? At the end of the month, you can kind of know ahead of time, I need $100 a month for my gas for my car. I can set that $100 aside and know that I always have it, and then pay off that credit card bill at the end of the month. Okay? Nobody's zipping over to the gas station to buy more gas just for kicks and giggles. You're not like going, hey, Steve, I went to the gas station today and I got some more gas. You want to see? Nobody's doing that, okay? So that's Mrs. McGrath's recommendation on getting your first credit card, okay? Because you get in the habit of paying the bill on time. It's something you're only going to go and get because you need it. And you can budget to know how much money you need to have set aside at the end of the month to pay off your bill in a timely fashion. What do you think, Mrs. Richardson? Is that a sensible thing, right? Relatively. Okay. All right. Let's see if there's anything else I want to go through. I think. Let's go do these case studies. We'll do these case studies. So we got a couple of case studies. We got Jessica here. And she lost her credit card, but didn't notify the issuer for a week. Meanwhile, someone who found it charged a purchase of $175 on it. How much of the charges will Jessica be responsible for?
$50, and she would be responsible for $50 because she didn't tell them before it happened.
Very good. So she's going to be responsible. Once she notifies them, she's going to be responsible for the whole $175 unless she notifies them. Okay, so once she notifies them, so if she gets her credit card bill and she notices that it's, like she didn't charge this, she's going to dispute it. Okay, so she's going to put in a dispute request or order with the credit card company. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the most she's going to be responsible for is the $50. Now, what if she had notified them right away that she had lost her credit card? What would she be responsible for?
If they didn't charge anything by that time, it was
Right. So if she notified them and nothing had been charged by that time, she would be responsible for $0. Okay. Okay, so John charges many items on his credit card up to $2,000, the credit card limit. Each month he pays $40 on the account, which is the minimum required payment for the credit card he's got, and the interest rate is 19%. If John maintains that same payment rate, how long do you think it might take John to pay off this credit card at 19% interest rate? Based on what we talked about the other day, what do you think? How many years do you think? Based on what we talked about the other day. 10 years? More? More than 10. Okay, how about 20? More than 20? 15? Okay, we're going to go with a whopping 33 years. Okay, so he's going to borrow $2,000, pay $40 off. It's going to take him 33 years to pay it off. And he will pay $7,000 in interest. So anything he got on sale really wasn't on sale. Not a good choice. Not a good choice. Okay, so again, that's something Ms. McGrath does not recommend. All right, and let me pause this for just 1 second.